for a second, just making sure everything's streaming properly. Ooh. What happened here? Oh, that's what happened. No wonder. Wait a second. Okay, that's there. And we are live. Okay, great. Everything's working. Okay, we'll get started. So let me get my guitar and we will chant a little bit. What should we chant? Here's a nice one. Okay, let me get the guitar. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan, Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan, Kanane Jamuna Jaya 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 Madhavan, Kishigatavam Jivaka Vadasakana Takatsavalila Koena Muchinanda Nanda Shinanda Yasoda Jaya Jaya Gopakan Shidamani Jaya Jaya Denu Vatsagana Jaya Prishamanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnimasi Jaya Vaira Nakari Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavanava Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakala Matudri Juras Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nandan Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Caitanya Bhakti Tejagara Paila Govinda Charanam Shri Rasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radha Jaya Jaya Rasa Lila Sarva Manorama Jaya 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 Rasa Sarva Rasa Sarava Parakiya Papaya Brajate Braja Janava Pada Padma Koriya Smarana Dina Krishna Dasakoe Nama Sankirtan Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Haribo 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 Nichako Haribo Haribo Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya Also Tela Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chavana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Rebbe Kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Machuranam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamaya Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Te Shatarni. All right, now I'm going to go to the corner here. So, there was one of you who wished you were here right now. You are, if you're serving Radha Golokananda, you are in the spiritual world. So, don't think that there is any difference. I'm going to keep myself in the corner right now. So you can all see Radha Golokananda. That is the spiritual world, or they are in the spiritual world. And if you serve them, the spiritual world is non-different than Vrindavan, believe me. Okay, So don't be a rascal. So anyway, on that happy note, so Om Gana Timidandasha Gananjana Shlakya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So this evening's program we're going to have to end exactly at 6 because we do have some devotees from New Zealand who are online, and they're going to be having a kirtan. Let me just do this. They're going to be having a kirtan in honor of my mother, who passed away about 3 weeks ago. And I'm going to speak for about 15 minutes, no more than that, and they're going to have a kirtan. And anyway, so that'll be starting at 6 o'clock. If those of you who want to see, they speak about my mother and see the devotees in New Zealand, and we'll put them on the screen too. Not now, but later. Okay, so with this in mind, let's go to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay. So I don't want to put myself in front of the DVs. Okay. I'll have to for this class. So, okay, so we're continuing with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. We're on the Madhya Lila, chapter 21, and now we're going to be doing text 24. Make sure it's the right text. Yes, 21, 24. And this chapter is entitled The Opulence and Sweetness of Krishna. And in the background you can see Krishna and Radharani. And you could be more opulent or sweet than Krishna and Radharani. I think I'm going to have to get closer to the computer for the sound. Hold on a second. I'm going to change the backdrop because I don't want to be blocking the deities. Change it to something I won't be blocking. Okay. Here we go. That's better. Okay, let's continue. Iya deke brahma huila mohita vismata stuti kare pache karila nischata. When Lord Brahma from this universe saw this pastime, he was astonished and struck with wonder. After offering his prayers, he gave the following conclusion. So, what's being referred to here is the Brahma of the Mohana Lila. That means the pastime where Lord Brahma became bewildered by Krishna. So, the reason, or he became bewildered by Krishna, is because Krishna bewildered him. But what happened in this particular pastime is that once upon a time, Lord Brahma thought he was going to play a trick on Krishna. He stole the cowherd boys and calves. And guess what happened? Krishna himself manifested the cowherd boys, a duplicate cowherd boys and calves in his Vishnu form. And Lord Brahma came back after a while, and he discovered what Krishna had done. He became bewildered, and Krishna showed that there were so many Brahmas in so many different universes, and he only had 4 heads, and Lord Brahma's in other universes had unlimited heads, practically speaking, thousands or whatever amounts of heads. So Lord Brahma became humbled. Krishna does this sometimes, that he humbles us if we are proud of of anything, Janmaishvarya Shutasya Shiviredamana Dapaman, if we're proud of our intelligence, proud of our bodily beauty, or proud of our good family, or proud of our money, then Krishna just like, boom, okay, pulls the rug out from under you, and then all you can do is chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Because pride won't make you happy, envy won't make you happy, just being a humble servant will make you happy. Of Krishna. Just thinking, what will give Krishna pleasure? I love Krishna, I love Radharani, I love Prabhupada. This is my life dedicated to them. Otherwise, in the mind you'll be thinking, accepting and rejecting things. What will give pleasure to me? When you see something, will this give pleasure to me? And then you make your decisions upon your mind. But you should make your decisions upon your intelligence, knowing what will give pleasure to Krishna. And you control the mind in this way. By controlling the mind with devotion, it is very easy. If you try to control the mind by controlling the mind directly, it ain't going to work. As Krishna says in the Gita, or Arjuna says, sorry about that, Arjuna says in the Gita, Chanchalahi manaha Krishna pramati balavadradam tajaham nigraham manyo avayo eva shaduskaram. That the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, and to control it is more difficult than controlling the wind. You don't have to control the mind. You let the heart be connected to Krishna, and the mind will just like keep its little trap shut. So this is the pastime that's being referred to here. Yekahe Krishnara Vaibhava Muni Sava Janon Se Janukal Kayamane Muniye Manon. Lord Brahma said, if someone says that he knows everything about Krishna's opulence, let him think that way. But as far as I am concerned, with my body and mind, I consider it in this way. This is Lord Brahma's great humility. Eye Tumara Nanta Vaibhavamrita Sindhu Moravanmano Gamya Nahiyeka Bindu. My Lord, your opulences is like an unlimited ocean of nectar, and it is verbally and mentally impossible for me to realize even a drop of that ocean. Jananta iva janantu kimbahu ja name prabho manaso vapusho vacho vaibhavam tavagucharaha. There are people who say, I know everything about Krishna. Haven't we heard that one before? Let them think that way. As far as I am concerned, I do not wish to speak very much about this matter. Oh, my Lord, let me say this much. As far as your opulences are concerned, they're all beyond the reach of my mind, body, and words. And that's the nature of God, the nature of Krishna. Because Krishna is ananta, unlimited, without an end. That means unlimited beauty, unlimited strength, unlimited intelligence, unlimited renunciation, unlimited fame. So he has all these opulences, therefore he is Bhagavan. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-38, spoken by Lord Brahma after he had stolen Krishna's calves and cowherd boys, and Krishna had exhibited his transcendental opulence by recreating all the stolen calves and cowherd boys by his Vishnu Murti expansions. After he had seen this, Lord Brahma offered the above prayer. Yeah, that's what I just mentioned. Text 28. Krishnara Mahima Roho Kevatara Gyata Vindhavana Stanera Deka Ascharya Vibhuta. Let the glories of Lord Krishna be. Who could be aware of all of them? His abode, Vrindavan, has many wonderful opulences. Just try to see them all. Sholakrosha Vrindavana Shastrera Prakashe Taraika Deshe Vaikunta Chanda Gana Vase. According to the revelations of revealed scripture, Vrindavana extends only 16 kroshas, that's 32 miles in each direction. Nonetheless, all the Vaikuntha planets and innumerable universes are located in one corner of this tract. So this is in relationship to Gokul, that is Vrindavan that's manifest on this planet. So in Braja, the land is divided into various vanas or forests. That's why Vrindavana means the forest of Vrinda. And Vrinda is in charge of all the different forests and arranging everything for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So as I mentioned yesterday, when we say Vrindavan, sometimes it refers to all the different forests, that's 12 main forests, which are going to be described here, and sometimes it just refers to one of the forests, which is the largest forest, Vrindavan forest. And sometimes it refers to the city of Vrindavan. So just try to remember that particular word is defined or understood according to the context in which it's in. In Braja, the land is divided into various vanas or forests. The forests total 12, and their extension is estimated to be 84 kroshas. Of these, the special forest known as Vrindavan is located from the present municipal city of Vrindavan, that's what I just described, to the village called Nandagram. This distance is 16 kroshas, 32 miles. So, let me explain something right now. Because Nandagram is the place where Krishna lived with Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai. And also there's another place real close by called Barshana, where Krishna where Radharani and her family lives. And all the associated gopis live very close to there. So, but Krishna actually appeared not in Nandagam, nor did Radharani appear in Barshana. I hate to break the news to you. So Krishna appeared in a place called Gokul. So you may say, Krishna appeared in Mathura. And I may say, no. Sorry about this. The manifestation of Krishna that appeared in Mathura was Vasudeva Krishna, an expansion of Krishna. But the actual original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brajendrananda, he actually appeared in Gokul as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashodamai. And so what happened is that Krishna started out, yes. And so, okay, let me continue with the story. So when Vasudeva, not Vasudeva, Vasudeva is the name of Krishna, Vasudeva is the name of Vasudeva, Krishna's father. So, Krishna's father in Mathura. So when Vasudeva, father of Krishna in Mathura, brought Vasudeva Krishna, the expansion of Krishna in Vrindavan, I know it's a little complex, to Vrindavan, or to Gokul to be more precise, then what happened is that expansion entered into the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, Ete Chanksa Kalak Pumsa. Krishna is tu Bhagavan Swayam. And so, but Krishna actually appeared as the son of Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj. And Radharani appeared in a place called Ravo. Now both of these places, Ravo, okay, and Gokul, are on the opposite side of the Jamuna River. Opposite side from where Vrindavan city is. Okay, got it. Is the volume low? I don't think so. It's listed as it's pretty high. I can make it higher. if you wish. Yeah, it sounds okay. Everybody else is saying it's okay. Yep. So everybody else says it's okay. Because if I go higher, it starts to distort. So anyway, getting back to the point. All right, so you got Raval, where Radharani appeared, and Gokul, where Krishna appeared. Okay. So neither appeared at Nandagram or Barshana. Although if you go to Barshana, you'll hear the Pandas tell you, oh, Krishna, Radharani appeared here, but Radharani did not appear there. Radharani appeared in Raval. So you got Raval and Gokul, which are pretty close on the other side of the Jamuna, actually the eastern side of the Jamuna, along with a lot of the different other places of Krishna's early childhood pastimes, such as Brahmananda Ghat, where Krishna ate the dirt and showed the universes to Mother Yashodamai in his mouth. So many things occurred on the eastern side of Jamuna, but because there were too many demons attacking, Nanda Maharaj decided to move everybody across the Jamuna to the Vrindavan forest. And part of the Vrindavan forest, or within the Vrindavan forest, is Nandagram. And also part of the Vrindavan forest is Barshana. So Radharani and her family, Radharani's mother's Kirtida, and she's known as Kirtida Sundari. So Radharani and her family moved to Barshana, and Krishna and his family moved to Nandagram. And also within the Vrindavan forest is Govardhan. So Govardhan's there, and it's actually the primary forest. I mean, there's other forests too. Taliban, of course, is where Krishna and Balaram, especially Balaram, killed the donkey demons. Especially Dana-Kasura was killed by Balaram. So anyway, so there's different forests, but the main forest is the Vrindavan forest. And sometimes when we speak about Vrindavan, we're referring to the whole Braj area. I mean, just to be really technical, the whole area is called Braja, which is divided into various vanas. There's 12 main forests, and there's many secondary forests there. Anyway, Apara Ishvara Krishnara Nahika Ganana Sakachandra Nyaye Kare Digdarar Shana. No one can estimate the opulence of Krishna, that is unlimited. However, just as one sees the moon through the branches of a tree, I wish to give a little indication. So, first the child is shown the branches of a tree, and then he is shown the moon through the branches. This is called Shokha Chandranyaya. The idea is that first one must be given a simpler example, then the more difficult background is explained. Aishvarya kahite spurila Aishvarya Sagdara Manendriya Dubila Prabhu Ahila Hampara. While describing the transcendental opulences of Krishna, the ocean of opulence manifested in the mind of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and his mind and senses were immersed in this ocean, thus he was perplexed. So, what is going on here is Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, but he's acting or in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and he's experiencing what's called a sanchari bhava. There's different emotions that devotees experience, and of course, Srimati Radharani is the best devotee, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani experiencing those emotions. And so, describing those emotions, there's the vibhava, that which stimulates the emotions, and the description of the transcendental opulences of Krishna, that's a vibhav. It's called an udipana. Anyway, not going to get into the technicalities right now. So it stimulates Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy, and Lord Chaitanya is acted as a devotee. And then when that stimulation is there, he enters into one or several of the vyabhichari or sanchari bhavs, which are the uncontrolled, intermittent, let us say, ecstasies that you can't do anything about. When they come, they just like come and they overwhelm you. So this is called a sanchari bhav or a vyabhichari bhav. And he's immersed in the ocean, he becomes perplexed. That's one of the sanchari bhavas. There's other types of bhavas called anubhav, which means a voluntary expression. Like if someone starts dancing in kirtan, generally that's an anubhav, because he's voluntarily dancing. He can stop dancing if he wants, or he can continue dancing, or he can jump higher if he wants, but there's some control there. But with a sanchari bhav, vyabhichari bhav, which is the same thing, there's 33 main ones that are being described by the acharyas, there is no control. They just take over a devotee's consciousness completely. So, bhava tera shloka padila pane artha ashvadite sukhe karena vyakyane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally recited the following verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and to relish the meaning, he began to explain it himself. Swayam tva sam yatishayastreya trihishaya swaraja lakshmyapta samastakamaha palim harad bishchira lukapalahai kirita koti dita palapitaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the master of the three worlds and the three principal demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. No one is equal to or greater than him by a spiritual potency known as Swaraja Lakshmi. That's his own king, Lakshmi. Swa is, Raja means king or queen. Lakshmi, all his desires are fulfilled. In other words, Krishna's energy, headed up by the Adi Lakshmi, that is Srimati Radharani, or energies or expansions, they're all Krishna's servants. While offering their dues and presence in worship, the predominating deities of all the planets touch the lotus feet of the Lord with their helmets. Thus they offer prayers to the Lord. This quotation is verse 21 of the second chapter, third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Paramaishvara Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Tati Vada Tandra Sama Kayanagi Anna. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore he is the greatest of all. No one is equal to him, nor is anyone greater than him. So there's many ways to understand this. First one is that there are many subordinate controllers, not even talking about God here, or demigods, you may say. And so Krishna is above all these subordinate controllers. He's the controller of the controllers. He's a Parameshwara. He's the Ishvara. And that's one way. Another way of understanding is that Krishna has many expansions which are non-different from him. Advaita Chutam Anadir Ananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. And he is the original personality of Godhead, which is going to be described here. Oh my God. Ishwaram Hanumat Krishna Satchananda Vigraha Anahadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He is an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. And of course, this is the first verse of the fifth chapter of the Brahma Samhita. So, he has an eternal, blissful spiritual body, not a mundane body. Brahma Vishnu Hara Eshrishjarishvara Tine Agyakari Krishnara Krishnadishvara. The primary predominating deities of this material world are Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Nonetheless, they simply carry out all the orders of Krishna, who is the master of them all. Shujamitan niyuktoham haro harati tadvasha vishwam purusharupena paripati tri shakti drik. Hold on a second, I just want to write something. To remind me to do something. Lord Brahma said, following the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself in the form of Kshura Dakshayi Vishnu maintains all the affairs of material nature. Thus, the supreme control of the three modes of material nature is Lord Vishnu. Quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.6.32. Esamanya Shriyadishvarera Rera Shunartahara Jagatkaranatina Purushavatara. This is only a general description. Please try to understand another meaning of Triyadisha. That means three controllers. Okay? Three controllers. Isha. The three Purusha incarnations of Vishnu are the original cause of material creation. We discussed who they were. That's the Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Okay, called the Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu glances at the material creation after all the universes come from his body like little bubbles, and he impregnates the living entities within each and every universe, and that impregnation is called Shambhu. And then also he enters into each and every universe as Garbhadakshay Vishnu, who gives birth to Lord Brahma, and then he expands again as the Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who is inside everyone's heart. Mahavishnu Padam Padmanabha Shirodaka Swami Etina Stula Shukshma Sarvantaryami. Mahavishnu, Padmanabha, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu are the super souls of all subtle and gross existence. That means they're the soul of all the material energies. That's what it means. In different ways. Because Mahavishnu is the soul, the super soul, the super soul of all the universes. Padmanabha, who is Garbhadakshay Vishnu, another name of Garbhadakshay Vishnu is Padmanabha, because he has the lotus Padma, comes from his navel, upon which Lord Brahma is born. That's why it's called Padmanabha. So he's the soul of the universe, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu is actually the soul of our soul. He's in everyone's heart. Lord Mahavishnu is known as Karanadakshay Vishnu, the super soul of everything. Garbhadakshay Vishnu, from whose lotus navel Brahma was created, is also called Hiranyagarbha. His golden womb, actually. And is the total super soul and the subtle super soul. Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the universal form and the gross super soul. He's in everyone's heart and directing the energy, directing this material energy, and giving us intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantra Rudani Maya. So, Etina Sarvashraya Jagadishvara Eho Savakalangsha Krishna Adishvara. Although Mahavishnu, Padmanabha, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, remember that's Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, are all shelters and controls of the entire universe, they are nonetheless but plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of Krishna. Therefore, he is the original personality of Godhead. So plenary means on the same plane. Okay, got it. In other words, they're the same person as Krishna, just acting in a different context. Yashaika nishvasata kalamata athavalambya Jivanti loma vilajak jagadandanotha Vishnur mahansahi asya kala vishesho Govinda madhipurasham tamaham bhashami. The Brahmas and other lords of the mundane worlds appear from the pores of the Mahavishnu and remain alive for the duration of his one exhalation. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom Mahavishnu is a portion of a plenary portion. So let me explain that. First of all, Mahavishnu, as explained before, he breathes out, and so many universes come from the pores of his body and also from his breath, and they expand, they come out as seed-like forms, and they expand bigger, 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 bigger and bigger. And then he breathes, and then everything happens within the universe, you know, the creation, the subsequent creation, all your activities that you're experiencing, the building of the cities, global warming, destruction. Then he breathes in. And it's all finished. The whole show is only temporary. So when we talk about Mahavishnu being a portion of a plenary portion, we're talking about expansions of expansions. The original personality of Godhead, Krishna, is Krishna. Ete Changsakala Pusat, Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. And his first expansion is Balaram. And so there's these quadruple expansions that Prajuna and Aniruddha, that's Krishna, Balaram, Prajuna, Aniruddha. And then you have the secondary quadruple, which is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. And then so you got expansion, expansion, expansion. Then finally you get to Mahavishnu, and then he expands. But they're all the same person. That's why they talk about plenary portions and portions of plenary portions. The quotation from the Brahma Samhita, 548. See also Adi Lila, 571. E artha madhyama shuna Guda artha hara tina vasastana krishnera shastre kyati yara. This is the middle meeting. Now please hear the confidential meeting. Lord Krishna has 3 places of residence which are well known from the revealed scriptures. Krishna has 3 abodes. His internal abode, Loka Vrindavan, his intermediate abode, the spiritual sky, and his external abode, this material world. So in other words, in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual sky, there is one planet which is bigger than the rest, and that's called Goloka Vrindavan. Okay, got it? That's one abode. And then the whole spiritual sky, without Goloka Vrindavan, the rest of it is called spiritual sky. Vaikuntha, and that's his intermediate abode. And the external abode, which is like the prison house of the Lord, where everyone goes who doesn't belong in the spiritual world. We're all criminals. That's the external abode. Antapura Galoka Shri Vrindavana Yahannichastiti Matapita Bandhu Gatha. The internal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan. It is there that Lord Krishna's personal friends, associates, father and mother live. And that's where we should want to go. Madhura Ishvarya Madhurya Kripari Bandhara Yogamaya Dasi Yahan Rasadi Lila Sara. Vrindavana is the storehouse of Krishna's mercy and the sweet opulences of conjugal love. That means Krishna and the gopis. That is where the spiritual energy working as a maidservant exhibits the rasa dance, the quintessence of all pastimes. That means the topmost of all pastimes. Karuna Nikuramba Komale Madhuraishvarya Vishesha Shalini Jayati Braja Raja Nandane Naki Chinta Kanika Pyudeti Naha. Vrindavan Dham is very soft due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and it is especially opulent due to conjugal love. That is the relationship between Krishna and the gopis, especially between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. The transcendental glories of the son of Maharaj Nanda are exhibited here. Under the circumstances, not the least anxiety is awakened within us. Taratale Paravyoma Vishnu Loka Nama Narayana Adi Anta Srupera Dhamma. That's the intermediate stuff. Below the Vrindavan planet is the spiritual sky, which is known as Vishnu Loka. In Vishnu Loka, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets controlled by Narayan and innumerable other expansions of Krishna. In other words, each expansion of Krishna has its own planet. Like if you're worshipping Lord Ram, then you go back to the transcendental planet known as Ayodhya in the spiritual sky. Majjhima Vasa Krishnara Sadaishvarya Bandhara Ananda Sarupe Yahan Karena Vihara. The spiritual sky, which is full in all six opulences, is the intermediate residence of Lord Krishna. It is there that an unlimited number of forms of Krishna enjoy their pastimes. It's unlimited. Ananta Vaikuntha Yahan Vandara Kotari Parishara Gane Sadaishvarya Ache Buri. Innumerable Vaikuntha planets, which are just like different rooms of a treasure house, are all there filled with all opulences. Those unlimited planets house the Lord's eternal associates who are also enriched with the six opulences. Of course, six opulences not to the same degree that Krishna has. They don't have unlimited knowledge. They don't have unlimited beauty. They're beautiful, much more than anything in this world. They don't have unlimited strength, and they don't have unlimited renunciation, but they have these six opulences. These are the Vaikuntha planets, which are the immediate abode of the Lord, which is below Goloka Vrindavan. Remember that. Golokanamni Nijadamni Talecha Tasha Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu Te Te Prabhava Nischya Vihidaschiyena Govindam Adipurasham Tamaham Bhajami. Below the planet named Goloka Vrindavan are the planets known as Devi Dham, Mahesh Dham, and Huri Dham. These are opulent in different ways. They are managed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the original Lord. I offer my obeisances unto him. This is a quotation from the Brahma Samhita 543. So that's outside of the spiritual world. Pradhana Paramapyom Dor Antare Virajanade Vedanga Swera Janitais Toya Rashravita Shubha. Between the spiritual and material world is a body of water known as the river Virochal. That's the causal ocean. This water is generated from the bodily perspiration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's Mahavishnu's bodily perspiration, who is known as Vedanga. Thus the river flows. This verse and the following verse are from the Padma Purana. So we're going to end there. And we are to start tomorrow on text 51. Okay, and we can take some comments, questions, and as I said before, we have to end exactly at 6 because of course, we're going to continue on this same Zoom channel if you want to watch what's happening. So I am allowing you to unmute yourselves. So does anyone have a question or a comment? Anything they'd like to ask? Raise your hand. Type in the chat window. Okay, Pran Govinda, you have a question. Yes, you're.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada.
Yes,
you are such a wonderful, well-wisher, exemplary in our movement. Is it possible you can tell us a little bit about your mother's influence in your spiritual life? that I would like to make an announcement tomorrow in Alachua temple and have all the devotee praise for her. And we
Okay,
will
so if you stay online with this Zoom channel at 6 o'clock, I'm going to be speaking about that for about 15 minutes. Okay.
sure, that will be
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. So because I got devotees in New Zealand who have the same question. Of course, I did give the Sunday feast about it. Yes, last Sunday. So here's a question: Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaji. Lord Krishna is the source of all the other incarnations. Therefore, in Dwapara Yuga, when Lord Krishna descends to the earth planet, all the incarnations of God joined him from the material world. The incarnations were therefore absent from their particular planets in the spiritual world. The residents of those spiritual planets each thought that the Lord of their planet descended to the material world. Does that mean that after the Lord's pastimes are over in the material world, all the other incarnations of the Lord return to their respective planets? Or it said that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, he is present there, doing pastimes which are not visible to our material eyes. Does that mean that all the other incarnations are also present with Krishna or absent from their planets? Very good question. Well, Krishna sometimes manifests that the lords of the different, or the Vaikuntha lords, not the demigods necessarily, the Vaikuntha lords are, which are expansions of Krishna, are absent when Krishna descends to the material world. And so that's let's see, how do we express that? That's a pastime because they don't have to be absent because they can be there and Krishna can be in the material world simultaneously. It's not necessarily true that that has to happen, but that happens to prove that Krishna is tu Bhagavan Swayam, first of all. And second of all, to elicit the mood of separation from the residents of Vaikuntha. That's the second reason. Because if we were to say that every time Krishna comes out of the material world, all the expansions in the spiritual realm of the Vaikuntha planets are absent, that would mean that they're always absent. What do I mean by that? Okay, I'll explain what I mean by that. Because there's all Krishna's pastimes are always taking place in some universe somewhere. So because Krishna's pastimes are always taking place in some universe somewhere, while the material world is existing during the outbreath of the Mahavishnu, that would mean that all of Krishna's expansions in the Vaikuntha planets wouldn't be there. So that is an occasional thing that happens to enable the devotees to understand that Krishna is tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the source of all the different expansions. But it can't happen all the time, because if it happened all the time, then there wouldn't be anyone left in the Vaikuntha planets, at least during the time of the material creation. So that's actually a good point. And Krishna is always present in Vrindavan, and so therefore the Vaikuntha expansions of Krishna, at least those in the Vaikuntha planets, are, what do I say, are there in the Vaikuntha planets. So it happens occasionally. If it happened all the time, then basically during the time of the cosmic creation, then they would be absent. And the poor devotees in the Vaikuntha planets wouldn't see all the expansions. And just like, for example, being overpowered by someone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yeah, wait a second, let me finish.
Sorry, Maharaj.
I'm muting you. So, just like, for example, when Lord Rama appears on the Earth planet, in some other universe, Krishna is appearing. When Lord Bor appears in some other universe, Krishna is appearing. So Lord Bor is appearing in some universe, Rama is appearing in some universe right now, Krishna is appearing in some universe right now. So it's not necessarily true that every time the residents of the Vaikuntha planets come down. I hope that answers the question. Because if they did, then all these other incarnations and expansions could not actually be present. So it's something that's occasional. Okay, that's an interesting question you asked. Okay, and Atmanandani, you have a question?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. I am struggling to write this question, so I'm asking. I'll try to make myself understandable. It's I was wondering, because we are told that our desires are, or our consciousness decides our next birth. So
Yes.
if and at the same time, we are also told, like, I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that like the twigs in a flowing river, like the twigs are coming, and with the time they go away.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how the families or the people come together and leave. But I was wondering, like, if the person who is leaving the body and his desires, because of his or her desires, they may be too attached to the family member, so that is dragging the other member also with the same person all the time. So I don't know whether I've made my question is a bit. So I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wondering if
yeah.
other.
I understand. Your question is, let's take the hypothetical situation. One person in the family is a pure devotee, and the other person is, uh, let us say, very attached to them, but the other person doesn't want to go back to Godhead. So you're going to keep the pure devotee in the material world just because you're attached to them. Is that the question?
With Maharaj, with pure devotees, they don't, for them it doesn't matter whether they are in this world or that world, they are serving Krishna. But for people like the mediocres who are just going to the next rung of the
Right.
devotional service, they will be dragged back, because if the other person has a lot of material desires,
No,
and then you are
it
stuck,
doesn't work like that.
stuck in that family or in
It
that
doesn't
loop.
work like that because you have a member of your family who likes you and has a lot of material desires. He or she is going to drag you into a bad family situation. Because the person who is spiritual has priority with the desires. So, it just doesn't work like that. You don't drag another person. First of all, if someone is very attached to you, let's say someone is very attached to you and they're very materialistic, they just may become a cockroach in your house. They won't necessarily become a member of your bodily family. They may become a member of your pets in your house. So, Krishna has a way of arranging things. You don't have to worry. If some member is very attached, he's not going to drag another member down. You can't drag another person down just because you're attached to them. Let's say if you want to be with them, you could be with them as a pet. You could be with them as a dog. You could be with them as a cockroach. Or a bed bug. You could be
Thank you, Maharaj.
You could be one of these. Someone could be one of. Let's say in your case, you're advancing and you have some relative who really wants to be with you in the next life. Then next life, they could be a bed bug in your bed, and they can be with you. So they won't drag you down. You don't have to worry about that. Everyone's independent. So. So Donna has a question. It's not tomorrow we're talking about my mother. It's right now. So we have to end right now with this discussion on the Caitanya Caritamrta. So what we're going to do right now is go over to, and you're all welcome to stay with us. So right now, we are going over to the Fiji devotees, not Fiji, I'm sorry, the Fiji devotees who are in New Zealand. Oops. What is that? Oh, okay. So we're going over to the devotees in New Zealand, and we're going to be speaking. Why don't you manifest yourselves? Let's see, let me look at the gallery, see where you are. where are, let's see, why don't you speak, wherever the program is, so I can see which group you are.
Krishna Gurudev. Krishna Chandra here.
Okay, hold on a second. So you're under Krishna Chandra's
Yes, Gurudev.
Zoom account. Okay, hold on a second. Krishna Chandra. Why don't you speak again so I could just like.
Krishna Gurudev.
You're under Nitai Pod's Zoom account.
No.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me just find you, Krishna Chandra. I see you. Yeah. I'm spotlighting you for everybody. So everybody can see you all. It's good to see everybody. Haribol. I wish I was there, but unfortunately New Zealand approached the COVID virus in the wrong way. Whoops, just one microphone. So you were all, your country was in denial that COVID would spread. And so therefore, you're just prolonging the misery. That's a fact. I mean, you're one of the few countries that's closed down, that has been closed down. Even Australia has realized you shouldn't prolong the misery. You should get it over with as soon as possible. Okay, so thank you very much for gathering and agreeing to have a nice kirtan for my mother. So I'm going to speak a few words about my mother. Give me a second. So one thing, and some of this is going to be a repetition of what I spoke about before on Sunday. And if anyone really wants to hear it, if anyone wants to hear the full, whoops, I better mute you all. Hold on a second. I am going to mute you all. Okay, mute. And I am going to put the spotlight on me so you can see me. So if anyone wants to hear the full talk about my mother, then please go to YouTube. My YouTube channel, Bir Krishna Goswami, in which I gave a whole memorial service about my mother last Sunday in New Goloka. So here's some general points about a mother. So Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Meditam Gena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. Of course, we do understand, according to the Vedic system, there are actually 7 mothers. Oh my God. That doesn't mean that you had 7 real mothers, but there are 7 mothers, and the 7 mothers are the real mother, wife of the spiritual master. Of course, the spiritual master is not married. Wife of a Brahmin, wife of a king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. So what is the common denominator with all those mothers? You know, why do we call them all mothers? Because all of them, if they're actually, or have the right consciousness, they simply have unalloyed love for those who they consider to be their sons, or those who are under their protection. And the interesting thing is, all those mothers, whether you're talking about the earth, the wife of the Brahmin, the wife of the king, real mother, they're all female. Because the female tendency is to be caring and nurturing. And the male tendency, well, I don't think we need to talk about the male tendency. Sorry about that, for those of you who are men. It's not exactly nurturing. Of course, men can be nurturing if, and only if, they have a balanced life and they have a good mother. This is a very interesting point that I did bring out to a certain extent on Sunday. How having a good mother, you know, whether we're talking about the nurse or the cows, whatever, having a good mother is essential for someone to be balanced emotionally. You know, because without a mother's love, one can't be compassionate. Not just having a mother, you know, you can have a mother. A mother's not someone who just like gives birth to you, but to actually have a mother's unalloyed love. And those of us who don't or haven't had a mother's unalloyed love, then we lose our ability to be compassionate. Actually, there's studies about people who are what we call psychopaths. Ooh, psychopath means someone who has no compassion for others. And psychopaths usually come from a situation where they were not nurtured when they were young. And if someone's not nurtured, they become crazy. Actually, there was a psychologist, let's see if I remember his name, Harlow was his name. Many of you who have gone to the university will actually remember his name. And he did some experiments, not with humans, but he did some experiments with monkeys. And he took many monkeys, well, unfortunately, took them away from their monkey mommies. And they were not nurtured. Some of them he gave, let's say, a wireframe mother. You know, there's a wireframe that looked like a female monkey. And others he gave like a softer imitation mother. And all of them developed psychopathic, crazy tendencies, suicidal tendencies. So I think a lot of the problems that we have today in the world are due to the fact that people are raised without a healthy mother. Even if they had a mother, they were not raised either with the mother being present, you know, full-time mother, or the mother had some issues of her own and wasn't empathic, compassionate, etc. So this is essential. Prabhupada also said that when one is raised by one's mother and has a compassionate, loving mother and is breastfed and all that other nice stuff, then the young man, let's say we're talking about a man who comes out of there, will not succumb to lust, will not be controlled by lust. So it is actually extremely important for the psychological development. So, I mean, this is a general point about the importance of mothers. And that's why I personally am against children being sent away for their education, whether it's a boarding school or the name of Gurukula, whatever, being sent away for their education and not having a mother's love, because they will be imbalanced. Unless they happen to be pure devotees and oral compassion or whatever. But it's very, very important. And the mother's love for the child is more than the father's love for the child, as shown in Mother Yashoda's interactions with Krishna. Prabhupada and the Acharyas described that Mother Yashoda has more love for Krishna than Nanda Maharaj. And anyway, there were many quotes that I read. Many quotes I read from Prabhupada about mothers, etc. I'm not going to read the quotes right now. But one interesting thing is, of course, my mother's, we have to talk about my mother was like that. She was always there for me. When I was young, 100% of the time. I mean, sometimes I didn't appreciate that she was there 100% of the time because I was rather rebellious, but in spite of my giving her a hard time, and I was actually one of the worst children you can possibly imagine, because I was always very tricky, playing practical jokes with my mother, and not appreciating the discipline and everything like that. Actually, it was Prabhupada's mother who forced him to go to school. Prabhupada, she had to hire someone to take him to school. So, but my mother was there 24/7, and she taught me whatever values I learned. I mean, not Krishna conscious values, but at least the morality, cleanliness, compassion, truthfulness, a value of education and knowledge. And actually, she gave me faith in God, even before I came to the Krishna conscious movement, because I was praying to God all the time. Actually, my religious training that I had, went to some religious school, did not give me any faith in God, because I could see that most of these people were hypocrites. So I had years of religious training, but it did not help me believe in God or have faith in God. But my mother always had faith in God, and her faith in God was manifest in quite unusual ways. For example, she would say that whenever she wants a parking space, she would pray to God, and God would give her a parking space. Of course, she lived in New York, so New York parking spaces are hard to come by. So, but it was, for lack of a better word, her faith was based upon some material reciprocation, but still, she did believe in God. And, of course, even when she punished me, she said, God made me do it. I didn't really think that God made her do it, but she was always speaking about God. She said, God gave me a good son, that's me. And when I was bad, it was, God will punish you. That's not exactly a way to love God. God is going to punish you because you didn't listen to me, my mother would say. So, anyway, so my mother sacrificed her own happiness. She was very upset when I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And in fact, she was so determined to see what I was doing, or maybe even save me, that she came to the temple 1 week, actually, after I joined. And she insisted upon staying overnight in the temple like a devotee. And so we actually gave her the same rented bed that we had utilized for Srila Prabhupada. So she actually stayed in the same bed after Prabhupada had left, and used the same bed sheets and towels and everything that we had gotten for Prabhupada. So she got a blessing. But it was what she had to endure because of my fanaticism in Krishna consciousness was unconscionable. I was so fanatic that, well, let me explain. That in the beginning days of the movement, we would always eat prasadam on the floor, but there was some wax paper that we spread out and put the prasadam over the wax paper. And I was so fanatic, prasadam is Krishna, even the water that we offered, the water that was given to us is Krishna, everything is Krishna. So while she was watching us take prasadam, me sitting on the floor, her son eating on top of a wax paper, and pap of wax paper. I mean, this is really horrendous, for eating with his hands. And what happened is I spilled some water, and I thought, the water is Krishna. I can't let the water go to waste. I can't be defiling the water. So I got down on my hands and knees and started sipping the water off the floor, which completely freaked her out. And this really upset her. And for a while, she and my father were planning to somehow or other kidnap me away from the Krishna conscious movement, because I was so fanatic in the beginning days, only 20 years old. So, one time my father arranged for me to meet a psychiatrist, and he left me alone with the psychiatrist for several hours, and the psychiatrist told my father I was completely normal, but I really upset my parents. My mother was so much in denial that I had joined this movement, the Hare Krishna movement, the cult, that she told everybody I had gone to live in Israel And so when I would go to visit her, her friends would ask me, how was Israel? And I had to sort of like twist it a little bit and say, well, it was very nice. But eventually, my mother came around, my father came around. Actually, before my father passed away, he said he attributed all of his business success, which was quite a bit, to my being a devotee and his being my father. Because, when you're related to a devotee, Krishna takes care of you. Even if you're not a devotee, Krishna takes care of you. Like the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Of course, Dhruva Maharaj's mother was a devotee, sort of. She showed him the path, and Dhruva Maharaj insisted, as he was getting on the flower airplane to go back to the spiritual world, that his mother would go to, and his mother was on the next airplane. So eventually, after many, many years, my mother she started to understand what I was doing, and she was actually proud that I had a high position in the movement. And she would start coming to the Rath Yatras. Even my grandmother would come to hear my lectures when I was in Florida, and she would be crying, so proud of my lectures about Krishna consciousness. So my mother came to the Rath Yatras, and some of the devotees met my mother at the Rath Yatras. My mother also came to my Vyas Puja ceremonies in Nugaloka and talked at my Vyas Puja ceremonies. And of course, she was quite an educated lady. It's a very interesting thing. In spite of being a full-time mother, she actually had several master's degrees, and but did her education at night when I went to sleep, or at other times when I was at school. So she never neglected me at the least. So after some time, she became so favorable that she actually paid for me to have a house in Nugaloka, North Carolina, paid for my medical insurance, used to brag about me to the other devotees whenever she met the devotees, and became extremely favorable. In fact, right before she left this world, it was several months before she left this world, I was having a conversation with her. And what happened is that she said to me in a very interesting fashion, she said, my dear son, I'm a Hare Krishna, referring to herself. And because she had forgotten everything in this world except for me and my brother. And so she said, I'm a Hare Krishna. And I said, Mom, I am one too. And she said to me, really? I didn't know that. So she was actually very much connected to Krishna, although she didn't consciously realize it so much, but it was Krishna in the heart that was bringing her closer and closer and closer to him. And her final stage of life was quite interesting, showing how Krishna actually takes care of his devotees' families. Because we know, of course, in the Bhagavatam it says, there's many injunctions like that. There's 14 generations of one's family are liberated. And sometimes it says 100 generations. But anyway, in the case of my mother, it was clearly evident. What happened is that she was being taken care of by a nurse. She had a full-time nurse in her New York apartment. And I thought, everything will be all right for a little while. So I went on a trip. I went to Fiji. I was in Fiji. And while I was in Fiji, I got informed by my brother that Mom is going to pass away any time now. It could be any moment. And I was thinking that, I can't get back in time. So what can I do? Because normally I would want to be with her to chant Krishna's names and to help her with the passage. So what I did was practically even better than me being there, because one of the devotees in North Carolina, her name is Tulsi Devi Dasi, has been very close with my mother for many, many years. Actually, I would say even closer than me. And corresponding and talking to her, preaching to her, sending her prasadam, and really interesting. And so what happened is that I called her up and I bought a ticket on the internet and I said, you get up to New York immediately, because my mother was in New York. So you get to New York immediately, because there was no devotee around my mother. There was no one to chant the holy names for her. She had a nurse who was very nice, but not a devotee. Of course, even previous to this, just skipping around a little bit, my mother would watch my classes on the internet. Her nurse would actually turn on my classes. My mother would watch me give these classes, like the evening classes that I'm giving now. So what happened is that Tulsi got on an airplane, and I had one of my friends drive up from Philadelphia to pick her up, because Tulsi is not at all familiar with the subways in New York. New York can be quite complex if one doesn't know what they're doing. My mother had an apartment on the Upper East Side of New York. So what happened, she flew up there. One of my friends drove her there. Actually, and going back a little bit, my brother didn't want Tulsi to go, so I had to just really push my brother. No, I want her to go. Please let her go. And somehow or other he agreed. So anyway, so Tulsi went up there, arrives at the apartment, sees my mother lying there, and being very compassionate. I mean, much more compassionate than me. And this is also proof that women are much more compassionate than men. Men are just really cold-hearted for the most part. So Tulsi, she goes up there, lays down next to my mother, puts one of my classes on so my mother could hear my voice, and starts talking to my mother and gives her sacred water from the sacred rivers, 1,008 sacred rivers, and Tulsi leaves in her mouth like that, and starts talking to her and telling her that I'm there and that Krishna's taking care of her. And so basically an hour and a half after she gets there, my mother breathes her last and leaves this world. So the whole time, other than that, my mother was not with devotees, other than the fact that I would call on a regular basis and do video calls with my mother. She was not with devotees. And so right the last hour and a half of her life, Tulsi was there, and Tulsi, of course, sent the nurse away to rest. So it was just her and my mother, and she was chanting, hearing me giving class, being very relieved, and she opened her mouth and left the body through the mouth, which is the way that most devotees leave, through the mouth. And Tulsi actually said she experienced the body, the person, my mother, leaving her body and hovering in the air afterwards and expressing gratefulness for what she had done. So it's an amazing story. I mean, that right at the last moment, Krishna arranged the last moment that my mother had a devotee with her, chanting the holy names, sacred water, hearing classes from the Srimad Bhagavatam or Caitanya Caritamrta, whatever classes my mother was listening to at that particular point. And she left this world hearing Krishna's name like that with the devotees. I mean, it's an amazing, it's amazing. So many devotees expressed condolences to me, but my response was, oh, we feel sorry. But I'm not feeling sorry. I mean, of course, I miss my mother, obviously, but I'm feeling extremely ecstatic that I gave my mother the greatest gift. I mean, she achieved victory. I mean, that's a pretty ecstatic thing. I mean, you know, of course, men are not that sentimental, as I mentioned before. But really, I mean, if you look at it, even from a sentimental point of view, or from a philosophical point of view, she achieved victory. I mean, it's just having your mother achieve victory like that is ecstatic. I was completely ecstatic. And so, everybody can chant for her, but she was hearing the chanting. And right now, she's probably going to be in some devotee family performing devotional service. So I gave the greatest gift to my mother. And so that's the whole story. And if you want to hear more of the story, it was in the Sunday Feast class I gave last Sunday in Nugaloka, and it's on my YouTube channel, bkgoswami YouTube channel, if you want to hear the whole thing. But it was extremely ecstatic, not a sad occasion for me, because I gave her the greatest gift. She achieved spiritual victory. I'm not saying she went back to the spiritual world. I think she's taken birth in some devotee family, but she expressed her gratefulness to Tulsi. The soul expressed the gratefulness, and I feel that I was part of that. Although I was not able to physically be with her, I was spiritually with her when she left this world. All right. So, for those of you in, let's see, I'll let you say a few words, Mr. Krishna Chanda. I'll let you unmute yourself. Wait a second. So, Krishna Chandra, you can unmute yourself if you want. Just say a few words, and then I have to go.
Thank you, sir.
Whoops. Oh, you got Arjuna there, too.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We should turn that speaker on if you're going to talk through that one, or
Yeah.
you're going to talk through this one.
So can you hear me, Gurudev?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Turn the speaker on here. Oh, why is there no sound?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, right. Yeah, I'll do it. We got to change that playback device. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Now we can hear you. Okay.
So can you hear me, Gurudev?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Gurudev. So on behalf of all the devotees present here, thank you so much for taking your time out and sharing the great realization of your mother and a beautiful passing away of her. So thank you so much for sharing that, Gurudev. I would like to thank Draupadi Mataji for hosting this program. So thank you, Mataji. So, yeah. And apologies from Tilakni Mataji. She is busy at the temple cooking for the deities. So
Okay, and I will come there as soon as New Zealand opens up.
which we are all waiting for you today.
Well, you have to talk to the government there.
We will.
So anyway, it'll probably be April or May, because I'll go to Australia will open up sooner, and then there'll be a bubble between Australia and New Zealand, so I'll be able to go from Australia to New Zealand.
We're waiting for you, Gurudev.
All right, keep waiting. Anyway, thank you very much for having this program and praying for my mother. And like I said, she's achieved victory. I mean, I wish I could, when I pass away, I would be so blessed like that. You know, we should all we should all pray that our parents and ourselves can leave this world in such a blessed fashion. Okay, I guess that's it. This very much, and I have to go on with life. I don't plan
We go
on
on
leaving
the
this world
room,
now.
Gurudev, to see who all are here. So
Yeah, let's see everybody. Except for Tilakini. She's not there. Let me spotlight it. Wow, I'm impressed. I am impressed. Okay, we miss everybody. Oh, great. We miss everybody, and I will be there soon. Hopefully.
we all miss you as well, Gurudev. So please come soon.
Okay, and tell Tilakini to prepare some prasadam. I'm just kidding.
We will.
Okay, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Jagannath, Veer Krishna Goswami